Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Jack Canfield, and I'm pleased to have my next guest on today. She has written what I consider to be a really important book. After having two husbands die, author Emily Thiroux Threatt has discovered many ways to deal with grief and loss positively, which led to her book, Loving and Living Your Way Through Grief, which provides real support and real comfort to its readers. Welcome to the show, Emily.
Thank you for having me. I'm grateful to be here.
I appreciate that. And before we start with the interview, I want to say again how much I really love your book. It's one of the best books I've ever read on the subject. And I've read a lot of books. I'm on the board of advisors of a grief support center in Los Angeles. And so I've seen a lot of books about grief. And I think yours is one of the most profoundly helpful books I've ever read. So what I'd like to start with is just asking you, share with us how you got started on your mission to bring comfort and support to people dealing with loss.
Well, as you said, I've had two husbands die. And after my first husband died, I was lost. I was in a really bad place. There wasn't a lot going on the internet at that time. And I spent a lot of time alone, go to work and come home and be by myself. And it was not fun. And I struggled. I found some things during that time that helped me. And I eventually got to the point where I was functioning again. I never thought I'd get married again, but I met a wonderful man and did. Then when we were together, we really focused on living in the moment. And it was a whole different way of life for me. And I found that I was happy most of the time and happy being with him. So when he was gone, I of course missed him a great deal and still had profound grief at the beginning. But as I was coming out of it, I thought, okay, I'm not going back where I was the last time. I'm going to find a better way to deal with this. And I'm a writer. I've taught writing at the university level for many years. And I thought, I'm just going to write. This makes sense to me. It's my comfort zone. And the more I wrote, the more ways I discovered that I could find some lightness, to find some joy. And then his best friend died suddenly. He was much younger, and we were family friends on the mainland. I live in Maui now. And I thought, I've got to do something for her because she's not prepared. So I wrote her a letter right away, which she said meant the world to her, because I told her what to be concerned about then, what not to be concerned about then. And I thought, I've got to do more than that. So I thought, I'm going to write her a card every week for a year. So I sat down and I wrote out the 52 things I'd say on those cards. And when I completed it, I realized I had an outline for a book. So I wrote it, got a publisher, and it came out in January.
Wow. So this book came about out of these letters you were writing her.
Mm-hmm. It did. And I found at the end of each chapter, I gave a specific practice that when someone reading the book could do, whether it's something like learning how to use gratitude to bring you joy, or how to journal, or how to use affirmations, or many different things that you could do. So each time they read a chapter, they've got something active they can do. And it's focused on positivity, because that's what I found missing anyplace else. It seems like grief groups I tried to go to, everybody was crying, and I thought, I can cry at home. I need some support. I need to talk and find something positive to focus on.
Mm-hmm. One of the things I like about your book, and I just recently bought your book for a friend of mine whose wife just died unexpectedly about a month or two ago, and is that it is so practical. There's a lot of practical things you can do in there, and you've mentioned a couple of them. Can you share a couple of other ideas for people?
Just writing in a journal in general really helps. One of my favorite things to do is to write letters. Excuse me. And the one that I suggest is to write a letter to your loved one who died. Tell them everything that you want to tell them that you felt like you didn't get a chance to, or repeat what you want to tell them about how much you love them, or whatever it is. And the process of writing that letter helps a lot and feels really good. And then when you finish the letter, write another letter. And the second letter, write from that person to you. Don't judge what you're writing, just write what flows out from your mind at that time. And it's amazing what will come up. And it really helps you put things in perspective. And it most frequently brings a lot of comfort.
Hmm. Now, I'm curious. I imagine when someone is grieving, the last thing they're thinking about is going and buying a book. Do you think that people that buy this book are primarily the people that are grieving, or someone who buys it as a gift for someone who's grieving?
Actually, it's perfect for both things.
Hmm.
The person that I wrote those cards to said she bought a bunch of them to give to her friends. So whenever anybody was dealing with loss in general or with grieving, she'd have something for them that was constructive and supporting. Um, but it's also really good for the griever because it, like I was saying, I was looking for something and couldn't find it. So I wrote what I could find that gave me step-by-step instructions of here, try this or try this. And you can use what works. Nobody's judging, so it doesn't matter which ones you use or how much you use them, and just find the comfort in what you can do there.
You know, you remind me when I was in graduate school at the University of Massachusetts in the School of Education, one of our professors said, you know, if you're looking for a book and you can never find it, it means you're supposed to write it. So literally, you've gone and done that. That's really cool. One of the questions that often comes up, I'm thinking about people that are friends of someone who has experienced the loss, is, you know, and you talk about this in your book, like you open it with a lot of things that people often say to you when you're grieving that are the worst thing you could possibly say to somebody. So talk about that a little bit. If someone's listening and they've lost somebody or they know someone who's lost somebody, what are the things that one perhaps shouldn't say or doesn't come across really caringly well, or how would you recommend someone actually communicate what they're feeling, or what is the best thing to say to someone who's just lost somebody?
Well, the best thing to say is to recognize the person who they've lost. Say, I really loved your wife. We spent so many wonderful times together, and she was such a special person. Um, and mention their name when somebody says, you know, Ron helped so many people, and I just love the things that he was doing for other people and the things that he helped them create. That means a whole lot more to me than I'm sorry for your loss. I'm sorry for your loss is one of those statements that's kind of like the grocery checkout person says, have a nice day. And they don't know you and they don't really care whether you have a nice day or not. And it doesn't sound very sincere. And
Mhm.
that's kind of how I'm sorry for your loss comes across. Now, I know it, I'm sure almost always comes from a good place that they want to say something, but it's become something that it feels almost obligatory that if somebody hears somebody dies, they have to say that before they can go on to the next subject.
Mhm.
And it's much better to say something positive about the person. Or if you didn't know the person, sometimes that happens. It's a relative of a friend and you'd never met them. You can say, I'm sure you love them very much and they'll always be in your heart. So it's something positive. Whatever you say, say the truth and be positive.
Mm, very good. Another question that comes up is, if I were to buy your book and want to give it to someone who's recently experienced a loss, what's the best timing to give them a book like yours?
It's an interesting question. Um, Generally, it's probably good to wait a week or two. I wouldn't give it to them like the day after because they're going to forget you gave it to them. In that first week or so, people are generally in a zone that they might not even remember much about it. But after a week or two, depending on the person, and if you know the person, you'll have an idea for what feels right for you. Then they're ready. They're more ready for help. They're more ready to reach out, and they almost sometimes greedy for help. They
Mhm.
really want something, but it also can help much later on. since the book just came out in January, I knew lots of people who lost someone during the process of my creating this. And I've been hearing from them and saying that the book has helped them just as much now that it's a year out or however far out it's been, because it's kind of timeless and universal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, in addition to your book, are there other things you've done to help people dealing with loss?
Oh, yes, I do a lot. I started by on Maui, I created a meetup group and said anybody who'd like to write their way through loss, come on over to my house. And we started out meeting once a month, and they were enjoying it so much they said, please, can we come twice a month? So we'd come and sit outside and on the lanai and enjoy the birds and all the beauty here in Maui and write, and it was wonderful. And then the pandemic started. So I took the group online, and by putting it online, I've now got people all over different countries, all over the continental United States, not just people here on Maui. So we've been able to reach a lot more people that way. And I do that every Saturday morning. We get it's afternoon most places. We get together and write for an hour, and it's helped them a lot. And then I have Facebook groups that they can join. I have classes that they can sign up to take on writing and on reclaiming your joy. So I've got lots of different things. My goal is to bring comfort and support to anybody who's suffering loss, not just grief. Right now in our country or the world, we're suffering a lot of loss. And most of what's in the book is applying just as well to loss as to grieving the death of a loved one.
Mm. So let's get a little specific. Where can people get your book? Where can they find out about your online groups and your Facebook page? And give us some specifics. We'll put them up on the screen so people can contact you.
My books are published by a traditional publisher, Mango Press, and because of that, they're available just about any place that books are sold, from Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and all the independent bookstores. They can be ordered, or the stores that are open, they can go in. I have a website that's lovingandlivingyourwaythroughgrief.com, the title of the book. And there's a lot more information there. I have Facebook groups, and if you search online for Loving and Living Your Way Through Grief, you'll find them there. And there, the classes on my website, there's a link to the classes that you can take. So just about everything's on my website, and you can find things there, and you can contact me through there too. And my contact information is there.
Oh, very good. Well, thanks so much, Emily, for being here today. And thank you for the really important work you're doing. And it's unfortunately even more needed in the world right now because of all the deaths with COVID and as you're saying, just loss in general that's going on. And thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much. It was my pleasure.
My pleasure having you. And thank you all at home for joining us as well. And please join us again next week. And until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay present to those you love.